I'm Vic Myers. Welcome to The Resistance. Before I get into today's message, I want to correct something I said in a previous video. I mentioned that the price of oil had jumped to, $110 a barrel, and that was not accurate. I was conflating the actual price with a warning from Goldman Sachs, who said oil could spike to $110 if the conflict with Iran escalates. It hasn't happened yet, but the risk is real. I apologize for getting it wrong. Now, back to what I came to talk about today. In his book on tyranny, historian Timothy Snyder talks about how dictators try to control people, not just with guns or prisons, but by taking away their land and their independence. He uses Ukraine as an example. Not Ukraine today, but Ukraine in the early 20th century. And if you ask me, it hits a little too close to home. You see, in the early 1930s, the Soviet Union under Stalin took over private farmland in Ukraine and called it collectivization. They seized land from farmers and turned it over to the state. Those who resisted, called kulaks, were arrested, deported, or worse. Millions of people starved in a man-made famine known as the Holodomor. A decade later, the Nazis invaded Ukraine with similar plans. Hitler saw Ukraine, with some of the most fertile soil on the planet, as a breadbasket for the German Reich. His goal was to push out the locals, take the land, and feed the empire. Of course, we're not living under Stalin or Hitler, but the tactics of control that they used, economic dependency, propaganda, disinformation, and taking away land. These things are being used today by another authoritarian-minded movement. It's called Trumpism. So let's look at the numbers. Under Trump's China trade war, U.S. farm bankruptcies increased by 20% in 2019 alone. That's the highest rate since the Great Recession. And over 40% of farm income in 2020 came not from sales, but from federal subsidies, making family farms dependent on the government. And get this, more than 40 million acres of U.S. farmland are owned by foreign investors. And the land that they're buying, it's always the best, the most fertile, the most productive. China, Saudi Arabia, and investment firms are buying up land while family farms disappear. And here's the kicker. Much of the right-wing messaging around this crisis blames climate policy, immigrants, or urban elites. But the truth is, it's not the Democrats or the liberals that are threatening farmers. It's the consolidation of power by corporations and nationalist politicians, Republicans, who want to make farmers dependent, scared, and loyal. And by the way, not all farmers voted for Trump. That's a generalization, and it lets real scumbags off the hook. And even for those who did, if you see your neighbor playing with matches before his house catches fire, do you grab your marshmallows and say, serves him right? Or do you call 911? You call 911 and help. Because if you don't, you'll be making s'mores in your own yard when the fire spreads, right? The bottom line is this. When people lose their land, farmland or a house in the city, they lose their freedom. That was true in Ukraine 100 years ago, and it's becoming true in America today. We're not just losing farms. We're losing the foundations of freedom, and we need to stand together and protect it. Or, as Katniss Everdeen told Cornelius Snow, we can all burn together. Thanks for listening. Good day.